The sun dipped low over the Montana plains, casting a golden hue through the windows of the small ranch house nestled in the rolling hills. The air was thick with the scent of pine and the distant lowing of cattle. Inside, the wooden floors creaked under the weight of worry, and the flickering light of a kerosene lamp danced across the faces of three souls bound by love and fear. Elias Harper, a broad-shouldered man with a weathered face and a cowboy hat perched firmly on his head, knelt beside the bed where his daughter, Clara, sat. Her braids hung limp, her blue eyes wide with a mixture of confusion and dread. Beside her, his wife, Abigail, leaned in, her green dress brushing the quilt as she pressed a gentle kiss to Clara's forehead. The room, usually filled with laughter and the clatter of daily chores, was silent save for the faint tick of the clock on the mantel. Clara, darlin', Elias said, his voice low and steady, though his heart pounded like a stampede. You gotta tell us what happened out there by the creek. Every detail, now. Clara's small hands twisted the fabric of her apron, her knuckles white. I didn't mean to, Pa. I swear it. I was just fishin', like you taught me, and then I saw him. Abigail's breath caught, her hand tightening on Clara's shoulder. Saw who, sweetheart? The man, Clara whispered, her voice barely audible. He was watchin' me from the trees. Had a scar across his face, like a lightning bolt. He didn't say nothin', just stared. I got scared and ran, but I dropped my pole, and when I went back, she swallowed hard, tears welling in her eyes. There was blood on the rocks, Ma. So much blood. Elias exchanged a glance with Abigail, his jaw tightening. The creek was a mile from the ranch, a spot where Clara often went to escape the chores and dream of adventures beyond the horizon. But blood. That wasn't the work of a fox or a coyote. This was something else, something human. Stay here with your ma, Elias said, standing and adjusting the revolver at his hip. I'm going to the creek. No, Elias, Abigail said, her voice sharp with fear. You don't know what's out there. Could be drifters, or worse. Take Jed and the boys from the bunkhouse. Elias shook his head, his eyes hard as flint. Jed's 3 days gone to Billings for supplies, and the boys are out mendin' fences. I ain't waitin'. If someone's hurt, or if someone's huntin' my girl, I need to know now. Abigail's lips pressed into a thin line, but she nodded. She knew better than to argue when Elias's mind was set. Be careful, she whispered, pulling Clara close. The ride to the creek was swift, Elias's horse, Thunder, kicking up dust along the dirt path. The sky was bruising purple as twilight settled, and the wind carried a chill that sank into his bones. When he reached the creek, the scene stopped him cold. The fishing pole lay snapped in two, its line tangled in the reeds. And there, on the flat rocks where Clara liked to sit, was a dark, glistening stain. Blood, just as she'd said. But it wasn't just a smear, it trailed off into the grass, toward the dense thicket of cottonwoods beyond. Elias dismounted, his boots sinking into the muddy bank. He followed the trail, his hand never straying far from his gun. The blood led to a crumpled form half hidden in the underbrush. A man, or what was left of him. His throat was torn open, his eyes frozen in a look of terror. The scar Clara had described cut a jagged path across his cheek. Elias didn't recognize him, but the pistol at the man's side and the worn duster marked him as trouble, a drifter, likely, or an outlaw passing through. Elias's stomach churned. This wasn't a random attack. Something, or someone, had done this with purpose. He scanned the trees, the hairs on his neck. Standing on end. The silence was too heavy, the kind that came before a storm. He dragged the body to a clearing, covering it with his coat. He'd need the sheriff, but first, he had to get back to Clara and Abigail. By the time he returned, the ranch was dark, save for the glow of the lamp in the window. Abigail met him at the door, her face pale. Clara was asleep on the couch, a quilt tucked around her. What did you find? Abigail asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Elias told her everything, the blood, the body, the scar. Her eyes widened, but she didn't cry. Abigail was tough, raised on the frontier like him. You think he was after Clara? She asked. Maybe, Elias said. Or maybe he crossed the wrong kind of trouble. Either way, we ain't safe till we know more. I'll ride to town at dawn, get Sheriff Dawson. The night passed uneasily. Elias sat by the window, his rifle across his lap, while Abigail kept Clara close. The wind howled outside, rattling the shutters, and every creak of the house set Elias's nerves on edge. He thought of the stories he'd heard in town, whispers of a gang hiding out in the Badlands, men who'd robbed stagecoaches and left bodies in their wake. But this felt different. The savagery of the kill wasn't human. At first light, Elias saddled Thunder and rode the 10 miles to Willow Creek, the nearest town. Sheriff Dawson, a grizzled man with a limp from an old bullet wound, listened to Elias's story with a frown. Scarred fella, you say? Sounds like Zeke Malone. Been rumors he's been skulking around these parts. Part of the Blackthorn gang. Mean as a rattler, that one. And the way he was killed. Elias pressed. Ain't no man does that with a knife. Dawson spat into the dirt. Could be they turned on him. Or could be something else. Folks been talking 'bout strange tracks out by the Badlands, big ones, like a bear, but wrong somehow. I ain't one for ghost stories, but I'll ride out with you. They returned to the ranch with 2 deputies in tow. Clara was up now, sitting at the kitchen table, her face drawn. When the sheriff questioned her, she stuck to her story, her voice trembling but clear. Dawson nodded, then followed Elias to the creek. The body was where Elias had left it, already drawing flies. The deputies recoiled at the sight, but Dawson knelt, examining the wounds. Lord Almighty, he muttered. This ain't no bear. Look at these claw marks, too clean, too deep. And no animal drags its kill like this. Elias's blood ran cold. What are you sayin', Tom? Dawson stood, wiping his hands on his trousers. I'm sayin' we got a problem. I want you and your family in town till we sort this out. Pack what you need. Abigail didn't argue when Elias relayed the sheriff's orders. They loaded a wagon with essentials, clothes, food, Clara's favorite rag doll. The ranch hands, roused from their bunks, promised to keep watch over the cattle. As the wagon rolled toward Willow Creek, Clara clung to Abigail, her eyes fixed on the horizon. The town was a bustle of activity, but tension hung in the air. Word of the body had spread, and folks whispered about curses and monsters. Elias and his family took a room above the saloon, the safest place in town with the sheriff's office nearby. That night, as Clara slept fitfully, Elias and Abigail sat by the window, watching the street below. We can't stay here forever, Abigail said. This is our home, Elias. Our life. I know, he said, his voice heavy. But I ain't losin' you or Clara. Not to outlaws, not to, whatever this is. The next morning, Dawson gathered a posse. Elias joined them, despite Abigail's protests. They rode back to the Badlands, following rumors of the Blackthorn gang's hideout. The trail led to a narrow canyon, its walls scarred by wind and time. There, they found signs of a camp, charred wood, discarded cans, and more blood. But no gang. Just tracks, massive and unnatural, leading deeper into the rocks. One of the deputies, a young kid named Will, froze. Sheriff, you seein' this? These ain't human. Before Dawson could answer, a scream tore through the canyon. The posse spun, guns drawn, as a shadow moved atop the ridge. It was no man. Towering, hunched, with eyes that glowed like embers, it let out a roar that shook the earth. The horses bolted, and Will's scream was cut short as claws raked through him. Run! Dawson shouted, firing his pistol. The bullets did nothing. Elias grabbed the sheriff, pulling him toward the horses as the thing leapt down, its form a nightmare of fur and muscle. They rode hard, the creature's roars echoing behind them. Back in Willow Creek, Elias burst into the room where Abigail and Clara waited. We're leavin', he said, breathless. Montana ain't safe. We're goin' east, Nebraska, maybe. Anywhere but here. Abigail didn't question him. She saw the fear in his eyes, a rare thing for a man who'd faced down blizzards and bandits. They packed that night, joining a caravan headed for the rail line. As the wagon rolled out under a moonless sky, Clara clutched her doll, her face pressed against Abigail's side. Elias didn't look back at the ranch, at the life they were leaving behind. The plains stretched endless before them, a promise of safety, or at least a chance to outrun the darkness that had found them. But in his heart, he knew some shadows followed you, no matter how far you ran.